beautiful illustrations. So that's really how we're going to spend our time today. She's going to walk us through her process of how she creates everything. Definitely say hi in the chat as you have questions about anything she's creating, her process, anything like that. Feel free to send it through and we can kind of answer those as we go along. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone on the stream?
Of course. So hi everyone, I'm Nuria Boch, and thank you so much for having me. I'm an illustrator. I'm originally from Spain, but I live in Scotland. And I'm really excited today to be able to share with you my process in Photoshop.
Awesome. We're very excited. Yeah, I know that you have a couple different things that we kind of want to take a look at. And live from the conference, we actually have these really fun. I know you were like, do we show them? Do we not? I was like, we show them. These tattoos were designed by Nuria, and like they're all kind of out that people can put them on. And you created these in Illustrator.
Yeah, these ones are made in Illustrator. I was just trying to be a bit funny on the type of things that I would like to remember myself sometimes. Like, so note to self, remember to name your layers.
Name your layers. I feel like that's a very solid one. I need that on a t-shirt also. Yes.
Untitled. And then just like a fun of cool UI and also floral elements that I like to include in my work as well.
I know. I feel like I should have put one of these on. Oh, we had a close-up. Oh, my bad. Oh, yes. There we go.
There they are.
Amazing. Okay, well, why don't you pull up your, we'll take a look at your screen and kind of take a look at your process and portfolio and everything like that.
Yeah, so I'll first start with my portfolio. So I like to create a little whimsical type of illustrations. I love to draw nature and kind of take a spin on it in trying to influence what I experience on my travels or what I see into my work as much as I can. So this is my website that you can check out anytime you want. So these are the types of works that I normally do and create. As you can see, I like to create lineal works, and I have a thing for very vibrant colors myself.
I love this fish one as well.
Thank you. Yeah, this one was like created like thinking on the relationship between the environments of the clownfish and the anemone, I think it's called.
Yes, an anemone, yeah.
And how they help each other out. So I tried to kind of come up with a meaning behind each artwork and see, you know, what can I influence, what kind of message can I send with my works. And so no, it's just like too random either. But I like to include a lot of detail in it too. So I like it to feel like a puzzle. You have to stop and wander around the
it's beautiful too because I feel like there's a lot of like layers to it in terms of like texture. There's some things that are like more blurred. You have like a lot going on, but it's very like subtle kind of pieces throughout it, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah. I also like to infuse the movement into it because I have a background in the motion graphics. So I like to be able to draw it in motion if I can, even if it's like a static illustration.
That's right. I did see some of your work that had some like slight animation as well. You have like animated work too, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to check out my website at nuriaboch.co.uk, and I'll just.
And you have a shop of your prints too.
Oh
so
yeah,
you can check those out. Yeah.
I sell prints too.
Yeah.
You want to check it
out?
You
do it all. You got it all.
Hang it on your wall. So yeah, I'll just jump right into Photoshop. This is a welcome page to the session today. So this is my process of how I bring to life the illustrations. So welcome to this. Here's the reference. So as I mentioned before, I like to be able to take the experiences of traveling to places to influence my work and kind of have a deeper connection to what I create. So here's some photos that I took on my last trip to Spain with family. These are mainly some flowers. I like to include a lot of floral elements in my work. And the photo above here, it's from the patios from Cordoba in Spain. They're really famous for having really these beautiful patios you can sometimes walk into, and they're so beautiful. Lots of lovely plants and flowers.
Beautiful. So like architecture, nature, kind of just getting inspired by what you see.
Yes, yeah. So I was thinking, well, what can I do with, you know, this experience? So first I kind of like took a bit of color inspiration from the reference images. But moving on, I began sketching the concept. And, you know, I start to zoom out on the canvas so I don't get too distracted with details at the beginning. And then I continue with loose strokes and shapes to get the idea across. I just want to get it out of my mind into the page without getting too distracted, as I mentioned. So the first sketch is this one. It's a very rough, you can probably tell I was getting a bit distracted with the flowers. They're a bit more detailed than the characters.
I love that you have like the big character up top with the scissors and everything too.
Yeah, so I mean, I was getting inspired by this, trip that I took to Cordoba. So I was like, okay, let's draw a plant pot. But what else can I add to it to make it a bit more exciting? So I'm a big fan of, Adobe, and I think it's called The Borrowers, the film, that they're like tiny people, getting things from huge humans, I guess. So I like to play with scale a lot in my artworks and have like maybe the characters being quite tiny. So,
I love how you're in Photoshop, and I feel like you have a deck presentation that you're going through with layers, which is amazing. At first I was like, wait, are we going through this in Photoshop? I love it. Okay.
Yeah, so actually this sketch, I started in Adobe Fresco. And I really liked how it connected with Photoshop, how seamless
So do you start fully digital? Do you start with like pencil and paper, or do you just go straight to
I wish,
like,
but
digital?
just digital first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I do digital first. Although I'm trying to dip my toes into traditional art as well, but I'm a digital
artist, yeah.
So that would be the first sketch that I do. Then I will try, of course, to refine it. So here it is more refined. You can tell that I've spent a bit more time refining, especially the characters, which were very loose. But yeah, so here I have like one character flying around on a bird. So the bird is kind of funny. Like when I was walking through the streets of Cordoba, you would see these really tiny birds like flying around the streets. So I was like, well, that would be cool to include it as well and have a character on top of it.
This gives me I don't know if you've seen the movie like The Boy and the Heron. The new,
I'm so looking forward to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it yet? Oh, okay, no spoilers. But it definitely gave me a little bit of that vibe. I like it. Okay.
Thank you. Well, that's great. I like that compliment.
You'll take it?
Fan.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I decided to have a character kind of hang in the clothes, like normal life, ordinary things that you do in your day-to-day life, and then the third character kind of cutting some of the leaves and the plants and stuff. So that would be the stage of the sketch that I would do. Then, of course, refinement. Once the main idea is on the page, I slowly start outlining the elements as my artworks are outlined. So for this is what I would normally do. Here I normally jump into Illustrator. So here's how you would see it in Illustrator. So I just like develop it and copy paste it into Photoshop.
How long would you say this like step takes you versus like just sketching, like the initial drawing? What kind of takes you the longest amount of time?
Well, it does take me like a day.
Oh, okay.
It would take me like a day. I think like because I'm very like into the details, I want to get the shape right.
Yeah.
And so I spend probably quite a lot of time on this stage. But it's fun. It's quite relaxing. I have the main idea already, so it's kind of like I've already done the big part of developing the concept, and now I can just relax and
refine it, get all the little details
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I will bring it into Photoshop, and then of course I will start adding the basic shapes. We need to start like building how it will look. So here I'm not thinking of color yet. I'm just like thinking of completing the piece. And once I have the basic shapes, I will of course start thinking about color. And this is quite a difficult part. It's a struggle sometimes. But it's difficult and an evolving process that requires experimentation. So sometimes, for example, here would be the first go at the illustration.
Interesting, yeah.
And this is like trying to apply maybe the colors from my photos, or maybe the first kind of thing that I have in my mind. So I would be like, oh, I'm thinking of blue tones, a blue background and stuff, and then slowly start adding details. But when I was seeing this, I was thinking, well, this looks quite complex. I'm getting a bit too distracted. So I kind of started experimenting. So that would be option one. Then I was like, okay, blues are cool, but what about some warm tones on the background? How does it feel? And I mean, I do like it. I quite like the blues and stuff. They create a nice contrast, but I was still thinking, this is too much. I love saturation, but maybe it's too much.
Are all the circles in the top all the potential, like all the colors that included in the artwork? Okay.
Yeah, so here I think mainly I was like changing the background and seeing how it feels.
Yep.
But working from that original, very initial rough color palette that I had. And then I was like, okay, let's play around with features. Like something I normally do when I'm not like really sure what to do. I just, started playing around with gradient maps. So I can start like experimenting with like seeing the work in different colors, and then for that to give me ideas. And in this one, I really like the contrasty of the kind of, it's not pink, I think it's like coral color type of thing, and then the blues. I was like, great, I quite like it. It feels more relaxed to the eye.
Less busy in terms of the other one had so many color variations.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, okay, cool. How can I mix both things in some way? So normally I would play with gradient maps. Here you can see very close to the original color palette, but I guess because it's like more refined, it's less, it feels different to when it's like super loose, like it's in the color palette on the page. So I colored in, but then I'm like thinking lights and shadows. I think like this is like the most fun part for me, because I start thinking, where is the light coming from? Where is the shadows? Where is the bouncing light that kind of add more volume?
I feel like it starts to come to life once you add a little bit more of that depth and everything.
Yeah,
to it. Yeah,
exactly. So it gives consistency. So sometimes I like to keep the same color for shadows and same color for lights and stuff. So here you can see a few squares, and those are the colors that I use to help me out to bring detail into quite a flat initial illustration. So I use the purple for the shadows overall on the entire composition, which gives them quite a lot of consistency on the composition. And I also use a maybe you cannot see well, I'm not sure, but it's like a different type of blue for the bouncing light.
Turquoise or something.
Yeah. So to help me out to bring even more detail to the shadows and lights. And then 2 different colors for the lights.
I mean, there's so much detail just almost in like that yellow and purple flower up the top there that I feel like once you add all of the different like gradients and colors to it, it starts to get like more dynamic, which is fun because then you have so many different like pieces throughout the illustration that your eye can kind of wander throughout.
Yes, yeah. I mean, sometimes I need to hold myself, like Nuria, don't add too much. Maybe it's like
you have to hold yourself back.
I need to be like, calm down. You love this stage of the process. So yeah, I would just start refining, honestly, and then this would be what I would call my finished illustration. Here you can see I added like some textured brushes, which is something I'm trying to experiment more with. I don't normally add it to my work, but I think it adds quite a nice feeling to the illustration.
We had a question in the chat from Keys around if you'd ever done any work in Fresco, in like the Fresco app, or if you've thought about trying it at all.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I've heard like good things from it, and I've had the experience for this illustration with the app, and it was like really nice. I think I've heard people doing animation as well, which I'm really looking forward to it. And I really liked the connection with Photoshop because it's my main app. So
being able to really easily just bring it then into Photoshop and finish it off,
Yeah, literally just save it on my iPad and then I can open my laptop and it's there already. So that's pretty nice. I don't have to be airdropping things around.
That's true.
So yeah, and then I can just get into the detail. I like to work quite large scale my artworks just in case I want to print them afterwards or I want to just crop details to share online. And that's how it will look. So you can see the bouncing light on the character, then on top of the light, the shadows.
So much detail. I mean, like, stay zoomed in for a second. I feel like you're not even doing it justice. Wait, zoom in a little bit more.
Of course, yeah.
Let's go back in. I mean, even just like on this like fun bird with like the reins that you kind of have, like underneath, I feel like there's so much shadow work and kind of gradients happening underneath there, which is really fun. And like, I don't know, when you are kind of at this stage, do you feel like you're constantly going like in and out of the artwork, or are you constantly like kind of working really like on each section? Like, I don't know, how do you kind of think about the full artwork versus like mini sections of the work?
Yeah, I do think a lot about the artwork. I like to just do this a lot of the time and be like,
That's
okay,
small?
that's small. Just
Okay.
like to get the very general idea, especially when I'm working with color, and be like, okay.
Just take a step back, yeah.
Yeah, because you're working so many hours on it and you kind of maybe lose track of what you're doing. I also like to go to adjustments and just put the cursor over to check the values of the colors. Or if I'm like really stuck and I cannot figure out the colors, I like to just like try different adjustments and see like, oh, maybe I should tweak the pinks, maybe I should add more blues, or maybe I prefer it less saturated, and so on.
That's actually a helpful tip, because I feel like if you start to look at it in the grayscale, you can kind of see where you're going a little too, if everything's really muted and light, or where you have like that contrast.
Yeah, it's really useful, especially black and white. Like, try to see, okay, some details are getting missed. It's not like, I mean, it has to be your preference. You have to like what you do. I don't think there's a right or wrong approach. So it's just about experimenting with the tools. Also, when I'm like thinking on color, I can take like, well, if I take this first option and I just like duplicate it and create like a smart object, and then I sometimes go over to the filters and camera raw filter and just start tweaking the colors itself, feeling like, okay, I like the blues, but what about if we change the temperature? How will it feel colder, warmer, and so on. And it just gives me a lot of control over the specific colors, the hues, the saturation. And that's how I discover slowly what I like and what I go for on an artwork.
That's amazing. Well, I know we had like a couple more questions for you in the chat that I definitely want to get to, which is, one is like kind of going back to fresco a little bit, which is just like when you use like a tablet, do you use like a stylus a lot? Do you have a favorite stylus you use, or anything like that?
Yeah, so for fresco, it would be on my iPad, so it would just be the Apple Pencil and my iPad. And then I normally just use the iPad for sketching, so if I'm on fresco, I would be just sketching my concept. And then for Photoshop, I will work with my Wacom tablet and Wacom pencil only. But other times I'm just like with the keyboard on the laptop, it's totally enough. It just depends if my hands get tired.
Yeah.
It's easier with the pencil.
It is definitely easier, yeah. And then we had another question around, like, what advice do you have to people who are just getting into illustration?
Oh, well, just keep excited about creating. I think it's really important to kind of like keep the flame going, you know, even if you're starting out, just keep going, keep experimenting, and just don't lose the drive to keep creating, because there's so much. I'm still a student, like I still have so many things I haven't done before, and I kind of have to keep on track of being like, oh, maybe I'm getting too comfortable, too comfy, maybe I should try to do something different. And maybe driving inspiration from ordinary things in life can also be a good exercise to be able to engage your creativity. Honestly, just keep doing work. I'll do a lot of personal work. It's always going to be the favorite thing for creatives to do, I think. And that could also lead to client projects further down the line. So yeah, I think that would be it. Just keep enthusiastic about creative work.
That's great, yeah, and I feel like we are so grateful that you took the time to like share your process with all of us, give us like a little bit of a sneak peek behind the actual artwork. Definitely check out Nudia's work. Thank you so much for being on the stream with us. We have even more content. This is our last stream live from Adobe Max London. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more content.